Wonderful stuff. Carla J. Easton live in session with B.O.K. So, Carla, you've got an album, Looming Large. Mm-hmm. Okay, what can you tell us about it? What's it called? When's it out? And what's it about?
And what's it about? So it's my fourth solo album called Sugar Honey. And it was actually funded by a fan club that I launched, so it's fan funded, which was pretty cool. And it's the first time that me and my live band have self-produced the record as well. Thought, why not give it a go? So yeah, it's kind of just fun. I'd say it's a very uncool album, but I'm okay with it.
Well, you know, you've always kind of delivered pop music, and we'll talk about that in a moment anyway, in a slightly different kind of medium. But there's no great surprise there. But I believe you've been doing some co-writing as well, and on the album as well.
Yeah, so co-writing on the album, there's a song featuring that I co-wrote with Kim Ritchie, who's a great friend who lives in Nashville. I was just visiting her, and she's Grammy nominated, really great, total icon, big sister I never had. And then, this year I've been co-writing with Dom from White Horses as well, which has been really great because I'm such a fan of the band.
Yeah, of course. Well, naturally, we've had them in session.
Yeah.
Naturally. And so you just dropped in there in Nashville, and I know that you've been to Nashville and Memphis on a trip. So was that kind of, was it work and pleasure kind of thing?
Yeah, it was one of those things, like I'd been invited by some mentors to go over, and I'd always kind of felt like not good enough, I think, just because you think Nashville of this great songwriting centre of the world, you know. And then I just kind of thought, do you know what, I'm just going to do it this year. So it was great, went over, just hung out with some close friends, wrote some songs, talked about writing, got to play a show at the Bluebird Cafe, which was incredible. Just go to record shops and museums and eat good food and just kind of reset, which was really nice.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you're going over there and being slightly intimidated, but you're nearly on your fourth album now, aren't you?
I know.
So I mean, you did just mention that. But you also mentioned that you went to like the Stax Museum, which meant a lot to you.
Yeah, it was really great, just because of my eldest brother got into like Stax Records from quite a young age and grew up listening to a lot of the artists. So it's incredible when you go there and they've sort of refurbished the original building. So you walk in the live room and there's like all the Booker T instruments and stuff and the original mix desk, and it was just really inspiring to kind of like drive around Soulsville where it is, and you know, you go by Aretha Franklin's house and just places you've always kind of read about or watched in documentaries and stuff, and to actually be immersed in it was really incredible.
You were slightly born out of time, weren't you? Because, I mean, you know, we've had Teen Canteen and the Ets. So you had a band called the Ets, which did kind of, a bit like Ron Seal did what it said on the tin, because the Ets, referring to the Ronettes and those, the 60s girl bands. And, of course, for a long time now, we've been talking about the documentary that you've been involved in, which, again, some people might not have heard what you've mentioned before. So tell us the cut and thrust of it and where you're up to with it.
So, yeah, I mean, I first came on to meet you was when I was with a band called Teen Canteen, and we labelled ourselves a band, but we'd quite often get labelled as an all-girl band. And so you kind of try and look for other bands to kind of cement your place and why you're here and validate what you're doing. And I found that there had been loads of all-girl bands, in quotation marks, in Scotland, this rich heritage, but I couldn't access the music and I didn't know what had happened to them. So I started tracking them down one by one. And over the course of 7 years, I've interviewed them all and heard their stories and got access to the music. And it's been brilliant. So it's a documentary called Since Yesterday, The Unsung Pioneers of Pop. And it takes in the McKinleys, the Ets, Strawberry Switchblade, Twin Sets, Sophisticated Boom Boom, His Latest Flame, Lung Leg, so many more, charting the history of all girl bands in Scotland. And finally, after 7 years, we're going to complete it this year and it'll start screening next year, so that's really exciting.
Fabulous. Okay, like I say, it's been a real labour of love for you because we've been talking about it for as long as we've known you. And did you interview yourself for it?
No, I didn't. I didn't interview myself. But do you know, it was so good just having conversations. I think because we were like musician to musician and having a lot of shared experiences. It doesn't matter what decade we seem to be active in. There was a lot we had in common, and so you know, I say it's an interview, but it's just really like having a chat about making music and gigging and making records and stuff. And it was really inspiring. They're all really incredible women, and I think everyone's just going to fall in love with them and their music as well.
Fabulous. And yeah, I mean, that's the best kind of interview, just when there are two people having a nice chat together rather than doing the Paxman. I mean, I am the Jeremy Paxman of Six Music, and I can only apologise for that. So you haven't got any gigs. You've got an album launch coming up, haven't you?
Yeah, excuse me, it's not announced yet, but it's going to be on Sunday, the 11th of November, and I'm really excited because it's at Mono in Glasgow. It's a really favourite venue of mine. They've been so supportive, and for the first time in my career, I'm doing an all ages day gig for my launch. And a big part of this is because I've been working for this amazing charity in Greenock called Rig Arts, where we put loads of kids together and they form bands. And one of the bands that I've been mentoring are called The Chords. And it's two sisters, Ava and Grace, and they're just so brilliant. And I just wanted them to have the opportunity to play with me, play this great venue. And I don't know, working with kids, you start and realise, like, if you're really, and I was that geeky, nerdy, music-obsessed kid with no friends at school, you want to go to gigs and you want to see bands. And so I just thought, you know, let's go a bit out there and do an all ages and everyone can come along, you know?
Yeah, when I was growing up, I've never really grown up, but you know, when I was a teenager, they used to do those matinee shows quite a lot. So in the mid-70s, I know I went to see 10cc twice in one night. I saw Queen when they were doing Bohemian Rhapsody and all that, twice in one night at the Free Trade Hall. It's a great thing, you know, and I was a toddler at the time, but you could go to the older ones. But now, of course, most of the gigs of the music that we like are in nightclubs, aren't they? So as you say, the kids can't go to see it. It's not fair.
Yeah, totally. And also, like, I mean, when I first started going to gigs, you would just chance it. You know, chance getting into a venue even if you were underage. But I guess it's got a bit stricter, but I think it'll just be like quite a nice event and a nice way to celebrate as well an album that's been fan funded, and which has really allowed me the first time to experiment with self-producing. And it's been really good. It's hard work, but it's been a nice learning curve.
Well, I've loved what I've heard of it so far, so I'll look forward to hearing the rest of it. You're going to do 2 tunes for us now back to back, so what are these in the right order?
So the first one's going to be 1 Week, which has actually been produced by my drummer Callum.
Woo!
Yeah, and then we're going to do Blooming for You, which features the GLAD Foundation, which is a local charity in Glasgow, their kids choir.
Fabulous, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Carla J, Easton, live in session, thank you.